Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to a game of throws in World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Not your typical game of throws today. You're all familiar with these type of videos. It normally ends up with one team trying to win a little bit harder than they need to and ending up throwing the match. That is not the case today. In fact, maybe half of the enemy team in this particular battle aren't even trying to win the match at all, for reasons that will become obvious as this game develops. Taking a quick look at the matchmaking here, this isn't quite ideal matchmaking for the 5 battleships per side. I mean, there's a carrier, which isn't fun for anybody. There's also a submarine likewise, but there are no destroyers. Which means that Stats Bloke here, in the Tier 10 US Navy heavy cruiser, the USS Des Moines, is going to have to be careful, because battleships do like shooting at crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside cruisers. But in this particular battle, he's going to have to be even more cautious than that, because he is a bounty target today. So for those of you who don't know what that is, World of Warships is running a bounty target event where people volunteer to be bounty targets, and if anybody sinks them, they get an additional reward at the end of the battle. There is one bounty target on each team, Stats Bloke himself, which you can see when you look at the team list on the left side of the screen. He's got a target over his ship icon, and the enemy Montana, who also has a target icon on him. Now, what can tend to happen when there's a bounty target in the game is that when people see that bounty target, they throw caution to the wind, the red mist descends, and they just focus down that bounty target at the exclusion of everything else that matters. Like, for example, the enemy carrier. It's a Nakhimov. It's got skip bombers. It's just seen stats. It immediately diverts and goes after the strongest anti-aircraft ship in this battle, because the days when carriers gave a rat's ass about anti-aircraft firepower in this game are long, long over, and scores 15,000 damage. Of course, also spotting him, inviting fire from everybody else on the team who was in range and paying attention. This, I'm afraid, is just the life of somebody who volunteers to be a bounty target in World of Warships. There are additional rewards that you can receive for being a bounty target. It's not just wandering into battle with a big kick me sign on your back. And we're going to see some of those rewards in this game. But Stats is going to have to be very, very careful. He's going to have to do the whole US Navy cruiser thing, even more so than usual. Hide behind islands, try to avoid being spotted, which is difficult when you're the bounty target and there's a carrier on the enemy team and it has spotted him again and it's coming back again. All Stats can really do here is lie back and think of Iowa and hope it misses. Now, he might be okay, though, because in its single-minded determination to take him out, that Nakhimov is sending its skip bombers right over Napoli and straight into the AA guns of not just Stats' Des Moines, but also the Pommern right next to it. So how many aircraft do you think the Nakhimov lost by flying over 2 cruisers and a battleship? Was that 1? Maybe 2? Okay. Fortunately, it looks like it missed. There you go, kids. That's how you defend yourself against a carrier in World of Warships. You just hope they're bad, because the anti-aircraft guns of 2 cruisers and a battleship did basically nothing. Well, that's my carrier rant out of the way. There's always somebody in the comments of these videos saying, Jingles, will you stop going on about carriers? You know what? They stop being bullshit, I'll stop going on about them. How about that for a deal? That seems pretty fair to me. Bit of give and take. I'm willing to compromise, but you have to meet me halfway. Anyway, first casualty is actually on Stats' team. Not a great start. Oh, this is an arms race match, by the way, in case it wasn't obvious. Various different buffs scattered around the map that people can pick up. No capture point for the first half of the battle. Then about halfway through, the key area appears, which shrinks steadily over the remaining half of the battle, and that's the only capture point. And that is the enemy bounty target, the USS Montana. Now, he hasn't seen Stats, but if Stats isn't careful about how he positions himself, when he opens fire and attracts the attention of it, that thing is more than capable of deleting even a Tier 10 cruiser in a single salvo. So they're both basically on the map border here. He's waiting for the Montana to fire before he unloads. Shooting at a battleship, so he's got the high explosive loaded. And of course, the Des Moines party piece is its auto-loading 203mm or 8-inch guns. This thing has a 5-second reload on 9 8-inch guns. Remember, the team's just picked up a hit point regeneration buff to go with what looks like a reload and a damage buff that the team have already managed to accumulate. The enemy team don't have a single buff, by the way. He's managed to get a fire. The Montana's turning around. Here comes some armor-piercing return fire. And, oh, that's going to... Yeah, that was pretty bad. That landed straight amidships. The problem with being on the map border is it slows you down. Eventually, you'll become immobile. So that really hurt. And just to rub salt into the wounds right before we go... Oh, no, he's detected again. But the Montana gives him a cheeky little sorry in chat. I mean, it's possible he's being genuine. But, well... Stats is on the enemy team. It's his job to sink members of the enemy team. Stats is also a bounty target. It's also his job to sink the bounty targets. And generally speaking, in games like this, when you hear a sorry from somebody on the enemy team after they've just bitch slapped you, generally they're saying sorry, but what they mean is, haha, got you. Oh, you know, which is fine. Shooting at enemy ships is what you're supposed to do. But Stats will remember that. And that brings us smartly onto another point, because yes, shooting at enemy ships is what you're supposed to do, but you're also supposed to play the objective. And that's where things have a tendency to go horribly, horribly wrong when you put conflicting objectives like that into the game. Objectives like sink the bounty ship. The best example I can think of to illustrate why this can be an extremely bad idea actually comes from World of Warcraft. So there's what they call the meta achievement in World of Warcraft. It's called What a Long Strange Trip It's Been. And there's a very nice reward for it. A flying mount called the Violet Proto-Drake, but the only way you can get it is by completing this meta achievement. And the only way you can complete that meta achievement is by completing all of the seasonal achievements, which means it takes you a minimum of a year to get this done. Oh, congratulations, Stats, on your first kill. So you basically have to be dedicated to completing achievements in order to get this done, which is fine. You know, that's not a problem. Until it is a problem. Because there's one of the seasonal achievements, it's called Children's Week, where you have an orphan pet. And you have to complete various different things with this orphan pet at your side. And some of those things involve taking part in Battlegrounds, World of Warcraft's dedicated player versus player mode. The problem, of course, is that the Care Bears, which is the affectionate term that PvP players use to refer to PvE players, they don't want to be in the Battlegrounds. And the PvP players don't want you to be in their Battlegrounds, because you suck at PvP. So you've got an entire month where PvP is basically ruined for the PvP community, with this influx of Care Bears in their Battlegrounds not playing the objectives, just trying to get this achievement done. In the Warsong Gulch Battleground, the achievement is return a flag to your base while you have your orphan at your side. Now, this sounds like playing the objective, but it isn't. It really, really isn't. What ends up happening is that all of the Care Bears just camp their base, waiting for an enemy player to come and capture the flag, so that they can then force them to drop the flag, and then take turns picking the flag up and just dropping it straight back at the flag point in the base. That's all they do. Half of the team are just sitting in the base, not doing anything, waiting for the enemy team to come and pick the flag up. What would actually tend to happen is that the enemy team would cooperate in order to get you out of that battleground as fast as possible so that they can actually get back to playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. And so you'd have one member of the enemy team would enter the base, wave at you to communicate their peaceful intentions, pick the flag up and then drop it. Drop it right next to the flag point, and then all of the Care Bears, one at a time, would take turns picking it up, returning it. The enemy player would capture it again, drop it. One of them would pick it up, return it, and this would basically continue until all of them had gotten this achievement done. The problem was there is a never-ending supply of Care Bears queuing up for Battlegrounds in order to get these achievements done, so it didn't really matter how much the enemy team tried to cooperate to get them out of the Battlegrounds. Plus, the Care Bears that got the achievement done in that particular battleground would then just re-queue for a different battleground where there was a different achievement that they had to complete that didn't involve actually playing the battleground objective with the orphan by their side. So it was just an unrelenting shit show for all of the PvP players for an entire month. They didn't enjoy it. The Care Bears didn't enjoy it because they didn't want to be in the battlegrounds in the first place, but they had to in order to get this achievement done. This is the sort of thing that can and will happen when a game developer puts something into a game because they just think, wouldn't it be cool if, without actually thinking through the consequences of what is likely to actually happen if they go through with it. This is more or less exactly what's happening with Stats here, who is basically all on his own up here in the northeastern corner of the map. Miles away from any buff pickups. The enemy team have only just gotten their first buff, by the way. Miles away from the key area in the middle of the map that has just appeared. But just by virtue of being the bounty target, nowhere near the objective, Stats is drawing enemy ships away, like the Hindenburg that he just killed, drawing enemy ships away from the thing that they really should be focusing their attention on, and which, to give them some credit, at least some members of the enemy team are. But they're already behind on kills, and if they're going to do it, they need to do it all together. And they're not, because people are still looking for stats rather than playing the objective. You see this indicator? Did you see it just move? That's the radio position finding indicator. That is pointing in the direction of the closest enemy ship. You notice how it's not pointing anywhere near the objective, which is over in the other end of the map, where the team's Kremlin appears to be the only member of the enemy team actually playing the objective? That's probably the enemy Seattle, looking at the map. Stats has noticed as well, of course, and he's already positioning to angle against any armor-piercing shells that might be getting fired from, yep, absolutely called it, that's the enemy Seattle. A 20,000 health Seattle is going to take the Pepsi Challenge against a 41,000 health Des Moines and is going to expose broadside against 8-inch armor piercing in order to do it. Well, that one's going to end about as well as you might have guessed. Thank you for the free kill. Also, thank you for not playing the objective and putting your team back down to less than 200 points. Counteracting the valiant efforts of certain other members of your team who just managed to claw a couple of kills back. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, there's the Montana, the bounty target on the enemy team. Notice that Stats' radio position finder indicator is pointing straight towards him. Remember, it points towards the closest enemy target, and since Stats is all the way over here, that means the Montana isn't sailing anywhere near the objective either, although he is a bounty target. So it's completely understandable. I mean, Stats is doing exactly the same thing. Stats is not playing the objective. He can't afford to, because he's the bounty target. The enemy Kremlin, however, is putting up one hell of a fight there in the central cap. He's just killed the Worcester. Enemy team are back up to over 200 points. Stats spotted again. The team have just picked up another reload buff. His guns are now firing every 2.5 seconds. This is crazy. But he's definitely got the attention of the Montana now. So it's bounty target versus bounty target. The problem is it's a Montana. It's got lots of 16-inch guns with super heavyweight armor-piercing shells. Yep, here they come. Now, while this is definitely a bad thing for Stats, it's not a terrible thing for the team, because that's one Tier 10 battleship who isn't supporting the Kremlin, and judging by that high explosive barrage, that's one Tier 10 heavy cruiser who isn't supporting the Kremlin, who's basically struggling on his own against the rest of Stats' team in that cap circle. Well, I say the rest of Stats' team, that's not strictly true. If you have a look at the mini-map, specifically over here, at the position of the friendly Iwami, nobody else has actually noticed it yet, but they soon will. This guy is effectively no use to the team alive. Stats, however, very much useful to the team alive. Even if he doesn't kill anything from here on in, he's basically drawn away 50% of the enemy team from playing the game, which is nice. He just has to survive long enough to make it worthwhile. I realise that he's basically blue line border surfing here, but there is absolutely no way he is going to straighten this ship out and let the Montana give him a broadside shot and take him out in a single salvo. So there is some scumbaggery going on here, but he doesn't really have an awful lot of choice. And he's only got the one turret that he can effectively fire at the Montana with, and the Montana did just knock that out. He's only just gotten it back up. He's going to have to wait for the Montana to make it. Oh, there's an opportunity as the Montana turns. He's going to have a good 15 to 20 second window with the Montana's guns all pointing the wrong way in order to allow him to actually get off this map border, straighten up, get all of his guns firing. Oh, the Montana just got bitch slapped. Right, here it comes. Montana's guns, none of which are pointing in this direction. Go gadget stats. He's got all the guns firing. He's still angled against any return fire, but the Montana's turrets are not pointing in this direction. Come on, Sunshine, you've got this. You've definitely got this. Oh, one more salvo. This is it. This is it. Got him. Got him. Got 2 achievements into the bargain. Enemy team are now down to 95 points. You remember how when the Montana bitch slapped him at the beginning of the battle, he gave him a cheeky little sorry in chat? Yeah, Stats remembered that. I mean, it's possible that the Montana was genuinely sorry about shooting at and damaging another bounty target. I doubt it. Stats as sorry in chat there, though. Definitely didn't mean it. Absolutely 100% not a genuine apology. So we've had the Nakhimov, the Hindenburg, the Seattle, and now the Montana. And technically also, at least for a few seconds, the Goliath, completely ignoring the objective and going after the bounty target. Now there's only 2 of them left. They're way more than 400 points behind, with no reasonable expectation of ever getting any more points unless they sink something, and they're outnumbered 2-1. Well, technically they aren't. Well, actually, technically they are. There are 4 surviving members of Stats' team against 2 of them, but realistically, they're only actually 1 kill behind, because somebody else has just noticed the Awami that I mentioned earlier in chat and said, is that guy a bot? Yeah, that guy. And I think he might be, because he certainly hasn't killed anything. And he's now wedged up against an island, and has been for at least the last 5 minutes, not in a position to actually shoot at anything. So, no use whatsoever to the team alive. The enemy team could still actually win this, but they're going to have to kill everybody in order to do it. And since the Awami is basically not playing, it's 2 against 3. It's not impossible. I've seen, particularly in episodes of A Game of Thrones, I've seen teams in much, much better positions than this somehow still find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. It's all going to depend on what that Goliath and Moskva do. Okay, somebody's going for the Ohio. It's the Moskva. It's Battleship Moskva, yes. We're talking about Jingles. The Moskva's a cruiser. Is it, though? There are battleships in the game that aren't as tough or have less firepower than that thing. So, yeah, Battleship Moskva it is. It's going for the Ohio. Now, the Moskva's a tough target for the Ohio, because the Ohio's got massive guns, but it can't overmatch the Moskva's bows in the way that, well, it could overmatch, for example, Stats. So the Moskva can just steam straight in and have a reasonable chance of actually being able to pull this off. Stats, of course, is aware of this, and he's doing his best to help out. Unfortunately, while he managed to get some fires set, who put that island there? Now, he doesn't want to give broadside to the Moskva, and sure enough, the Goliath, not shooting at the Ohio. Did you see the sneaky high explosive come in from over the island? Yep. Well, I don't know, maybe he couldn't actually shoot at the Ohio from that angle. He certainly managed to get him with his torpedoes. So we'll give the Goliath the benefit of the doubt. And the Moskva, I don't know if he was the one initiating the ram there, but the Ohio absolutely, definitely didn't try to avoid it. It may have even been the Ohio who was going for it. He was probably thinking, well, you know, we've got the numbers advantage. I'll take it. But do you? I mean, you technically do, but the Awami is doing nothing. The carrier's moved up real close. When they've got the carrier closer to the last surviving enemy ship than one of your battleships, you know something's wrong. The Goliath does have a lot of health, and because the team have a triple health regen buff, Stats has been steadily recovering hit points as well. And he does, of course, have the carrier on his side, who, if he can recycle his aircraft quickly enough to re-spot the Goliath, there it is. Now, the Goliath sees him, can't shoot at the carrier, and bounty target or not, if there's only one thing you can shoot at, you're going to shoot at it. And that's exactly what he's doing. But Stats has a 2.5 second reload. And the Goliath's a good ship, but it doesn't have no 2.5 second reload. And he just got the Confederate Award. Last ship alive on the enemy team gets the Confederate award on him. And he just got the high caliber. 228,000 damage done. Can he get the Kraken unleashed? The chances are pretty good. I mean, the carrier might be able to snipe it. The Goliath still has a fair amount of health, but certainly the Iwami's not taking any further point in this battle, so it's basically down between him and the carrier. The Goliath's only chance here is if he loads the armor piercing and manages the Citadel stats. Actually, no. Even if he kills stats, the best he can hope for is to achieve the bounty award, because there's less than 30 seconds of the battle remaining, and the Goliath only has 35 points. So no matter what happens, he's lost. And he's firing high explosives, so he's probably not even going to kill stats. He's probably reloaded the armor piercing though, and whether or not he's turned like that in order to avoid those torpedoes is just to get all of his guns firing and attempt to get a kill. Turning broadside against 8-inch armor piercing seals the deal, although he does at least get some small measure of consolation with the 18,000 damage done by that. Final salvo, not enough to kill him, not enough to get the bounty reward. Stats, on the other hand, 6 achievements earned. Confederate, Hunter Bounty for killing a bounty ship while being in a bounty ship. Dreadnought, Kraken Unleashed of course, 5 kills. Dangerous Bounty for killing at least 4 enemy ships while being in a bounty ship. And of course the High Caliber. 3,330 base experience. Actually 2 members of the team with more than 3,000 base XP. The enemy team, most of whom at least did better than the friendly Iwami, right down there at the bottom of the team list with 533 experience earned, and honestly I think that's probably 533 too much, but it is what it is. The enemy Kremlin, in particular, almost certainly less than happy with certain members of his team, who if they'd played the objective as hard as they went after the bounty on stats, might not have been appearing in their own personal edition of A Game of Thrones. But they kind of did, and so they kind of are, and I hope you enjoyed watching it happen, because that's it for today. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.